faceoff. Shoots it deflected right in. Pietrangelo save rebound. Stastny stopped by Pietrangelo. I don't believe that save. Neither does Peter Stastny. He can't believe the save that Pietrangelo just made on him as Frankie Sparkly. Now that maneuver there to stop and rob Peter Stastny. He should get 5 to 10 for that.
Hello and welcome to episode 104 of Tendy Talk, presented by the Hockey Podcast Network and the BLPA Podcast Networks. I'm your host Joe, better known as Wash Up Goalie on social media. This week, I chat with Anaheim Ducks social media director and goalie Tyler Pistoia. This is an interesting conversation as Tyler pulls back the curtain a little bit on the day in the life of a social media director in the NHL. So, without further ado, let's get to the conversation with Tyler. Tyler, hey, thanks for joining me on the podcast. It's good to talk to you.
Really happy to be here, Joe. Appreciate you having me on. I'm excited. This will be fun.
Yeah. You know, it's in your role as social media manager with the Ducks. You know, you're usually setting these things up for other people and not having to talk about yourself. So I kind of turn the tables.
I mean, I always love talking goaltending as a goalie myself. So I'm excited to have some fun with this, and let's see what happens.
Yeah. So let's just dive right in. You know, yeah, you're out in California, but are you originally from California, or you know, where do you hail from?
I'm from Long Beach, California.
Okay, all right.
Originally, so yeah, I've been a Ducks fan basically my whole life. Although I did a lot of football in college and post college, but worked my way back to my original team and my original love, and I'm really happy that I'm here and I'm doing what I love, and it's good. I really do enjoy what I do for a living.
So you've got a kid from Long Beach. How does he get into the game of hockey then? Because Long Beach is not what we would consider a hotbed of hockey.
I mean, well, back in the day when I was around, so you're talking like the mid '90s. We had what was known as the Ice Palace in Lakewood. It's now called the Rinks Lakewood Ice. So my dad's from Brooklyn, New York. That's kind of where the hockey idea came from originally.
Mm-hmm.
I think he picked up hockey when I was maybe like 5 years old, and he started playing. He's like, hey, you know what? I enjoy this. I wanna give this a shot. And I played just a bunch of in-house leagues and that kind of thing until the age of 16, 17, before I went off to college. But yeah, I started out originally as a skater, and then once I got to about age 11, I transitioned to goalie and have not looked back since. But yeah, I mean, there's been a number of good players from Long Beach or around Long Beach area. Emerson Edom's a big one. Nieto, who's still in Nieto, is in the same one. Emerson's a great guy. We've worked with him a good amount with the Ducks, and he's a good dude. So, but yes, in essence, Southern California, not necessarily known as a hockey hotbed back in the day, but now with things like the Anaheim Ducks High School Hockey League, you've got with Great Park Ice now offering a ton more resources, a lot more options for rinks. You've got Westminster, Yorba Linda, Lakewood, Anaheim, and there's a lot more options for the game of ice hockey here in Southern California that I think we as an organization are really proud of, that we kind of operate those as well. So that's kind of how I started out, and I'm really excited actually to see how many more guys we have come out of, or I guess I'll say, guys and girls, especially girls hockey in this area, in this region, go to the national team, go to Division I colleges from our programs and our rinks. So it's an exciting time to be an ice hockey player in Southern California.
Well, and in California, roller hockey's a big thing too. How much do you think that influences kids, where they start out on the roller side and then they're like, you know what, I want to get on the ice too. It's just, finding it in California. Most people don't think about it, but to your point, there's a lot more of it now than there was when you were a kid.
Sure. I definitely think that the roller hockey is kind of the quote. I'm a roller purists are going to hate me, but maybe I'll say like it's the gateway drug. Roller hockey is the gateway drug into ice hockey.
Yeah.
And so but roller hockey is probably a little bit more accessible. It just takes less of a financial lift to get and to play, and you can just do roller hockey on the street, right? Like you don't need a frozen sheet of water to go out and play. You can just go on your front yard or in your front area or wherever on the street and play and have fun. And that's how it starts. And then you eventually you want to try ice and you go there. So I do think, especially with us in SoCal, it's probably the easiest way to get into the sport of hockey, and then try and take the next step into ice. So I think it's wonderful, and that's how originally I started as well. Just playing around in my front driveway with some roller skates on and just shooting a tennis ball at a net, basically.
Well, and being from Long Beach, if they would bring back pro beach hockey with the inverted ramps behind the net, that might help a little.
I was there. I went to multiple pro beach hockey games back in the day when it was around. Oh, I love that stuff. That was I remember the Anaheim Bullfrogs that played out of Honda Center as well. The professional roller hockey league. Those were against the LA Blades. Those are some great battles. I think the games were like 15-11. It was an absolute blast. I loved going to those games.
I remember Al Secord was playing for the Chicago Cheetahs, and they played out of the UIC Pavilion. But those were roller hockey on TV was just like peak 90s.
It was so much fun. It was an absolute blast. You had the goalie in his goalie gear, just like doing the national anthem on the guitar. And for pro beach hockey, that was one that stood out to me. Yeah, the ramping was phenomenal. I love that stuff.
And then when the pictures of the goalies wearing the sunglasses because of the glare off
under
of the
mask.
ocean.
Oh god, I cannot imagine, because I actually played goalie in an outdoor roller rink in Long Beach, actually near a beach, and outdoor playing in the sun with no shade as a goalie is a rough go of it, even for like a 10-year-old.
Yeah,
so I can only imagine what those guys are going through.
That was back when the NHL was doing the breakout roller hockey tournament where they bring inflatable boards to a giant parking lot, and I played in the inaugural one in Chicago, and it was like 98 degrees and you're playing on the blacktop, and I wound up with heat stroke. Thank God, I was fine, but it was just. What I remember of that weekend was TLC was playing at Soldier Field. So all day you would have the mic checks, and, you could hear them rehearsing. And, as we're out here playing roller hockey, and Chris Chelios was walking around. But, roller hockey is, like you said, it's that gateway drug. And especially if, mom and dad aren't ready to make that financial commitment, you can gather some friends together, throw on the rollerblades, and go play.
Absolutely. It's really easy.
Yeah. So you said at about 11 years old, you made the transition to goalie. Why did you make that transition? Were you just like, I'm a little too weird to be playing out. I need something else. What drew you to goal?
I'm the normal one, man. Everyone else is just weird. Why do the goalies get the bad rap for being crazy? I'm completely normal, so I don't get that whole deal. I don't really know if there was an exact tipping point, honestly. I remember watching Guy Bear and Mike Richter growing up, and thinking, oh wow, those guys can really kind of change a game or take over a series or win a Stanley Cup like Richter did. So maybe that's, I'm going to give this a shot. I mean, I was always I was a soccer goalie since the age of 5. So I felt like it was kind of almost a natural transition to go to play ice hockey goalie and just give that a shot because of my soccer days. So maybe that was a little bit of an influence. But in terms of player influences, those would be the two guys that were my first NHL experience of, oh, these are what great goalies look like. Oh, maybe I should give this a shot. And so, basically that's how it was.
Well, like you said, Richter winning the Stanley Cup, he won the Stanley Cup, and then right after the World Cup of Hockey. And that was one of the best stretches I've ever seen a goalie play. Like he just dominated, and you had Hasek come after and some of those other guys, but there was about that 6-month span where you couldn't beat Mike Richter.
He went on a heater. Yeah, literally went on a heater and was just so dialed in and could just see the puck and see everything so well and just dialed.
Yeah, I still remember watching that World Cup of Hockey just in disbelief. Yeah, the U.S. had a good team. They were able to score some goals, but they should not have beaten the Canadians. The Canadians are a better team, and Richter, which is one of the greatest 3-game series I've ever seen played.
Who was on that Canadian team? Or who was on that? I totally that was a ways back for me, so I've got no recollection of that.
Yeah, you had Gretzky, Lemieux, Sakic, Claude Lemieux, I believe, was on that team. Theo Fleury was on that team. You had Wah, you had Cujo, and you talk about a goaltending trio. You had Wah, Cujo, and Brodeur is the three goalies. And Cujo was no slouch in those days either.
Definitely not.
They just had up and down the whole roster. Probably. In fact, let me bring that up. I'm willing to bet the 94 Canada. I'm willing to bet most of those guys are in the Hall of Fame. Shanahan, Robitaille, Sakic, Paul Kariya. Come on, there's 18 more rows here. Jason Arnott, Rod Brindamore, Jeff Sanderson, Steve Thomas. Just so many of these guys were. No, oh wait, that wasn't even that was Team Canada World Championships. That wasn't even the World Cup of Hockey, but still, those same guys were on that team, plus Gretzky and Lemieux.
How did they lose? Well, they ran into Mike Richter.
Mike Richter. And I remember the MVP of the tournament got a Harley Davidson. They roll that thing out there, and Richter sits on it with his goalie equipment. It was, that was one of those amusing ones. So you're playing hockey in Long Beach. Like you said, you played, the house leagues and everything else. And I wish they had house league hockey here in Minnesota, because then my son would have played, because he had no interest in travel hockey. But did you play high school hockey at the time, or
No,
what happened around that time?
No, I was very good at football in high school, so I played. Basically, how my year would go is from freshman to senior year. I would be playing football in the fall into the basically football in the fall. We had soccer in the winter. And then I would just have off-season football for the high school, at least.
Yeah.
Starting from end of winter through spring, and then I'd play hockey just in-house leagues in between there when I had time. But that was basically it for the next 4 years, and then I go off to college because once football became more serious.
Yeah.
You've got a shot at playing at the next level in college, then that's kind of what I continued to focus on. But I still played in-house hockey until age probably 17 and a half, once right to the start of my senior year of high school.
Okay.
So just call it 17 and a half, or right as I turned 17. And then from then on out, it was all football and soccer from then, and then track after that. So I was a track athlete my last half of my senior year, just to try and get my speed up in preparation for college.
So you kind of take this journey away from hockey for a little bit. What brought you back to it?
So the time commitment. So I go off and play football for the University of Tulsa in Oklahoma for 5 years. And then once my football career is done there, actually in Tulsa, Oklahoma, there is an ice rink, and they do have an in-house league. Yeah. So, the Tulsa Oilers, now a Duck affiliate of the ECHL, Tulsa Oilers, they play in a fantastic arena called the BOK Center, which is right downtown. It's an amazing place. So the minor league team plays there, but there is their practice arena, which is like in South Tulsa, which is about from the university. It's about a 15-20 minute drive. So I saw that. I had in-house leagues, and then so once my football days were over, I was 22 years old, and then from call it January till May, until my academic career was over, and when I graduated in May of 2011, I was playing hockey at least once a week. So I'd have my hockey gear up in my on-campus apartment, and my roommate was still playing football. So my goalie gear would be out in the living room with the windows up and trying to air out, and I just had the fan on and just blasted out the window. We were on the third floor, so no, so that's basically how I got back into it after my football career.
I remember freshman year of college, walking the dorm room with my hockey equipment, and I was rooming with the soccer player who air his cleats out in the window. And I tell you, those things smelt worse than my hockey bag. But he looks at me, he goes, "How long is that staying in here?" I was like, "Don't worry, I can get into the rink tomorrow and put it in there." But it was as soon as I got on campus, like I was trying to track down my coach to find out when I could get into the locker room so I could stash my stuff in there, because keeping that stuff in the dorm room was not fun by any means. Or the night before Christmas break, when you got to get it out of the rink so that you can make sure you bring it home. And it's like, oh my God, sleeping with the heat turned up to 90 in Minnesota, and the windows wide open so that the stink isn't too bad.
we were lucky in our apartment on campus. We had a full living room and kitchen area, so it wasn't like we had to put my gear in my room. Like I could just put it out there and just leave the windows open, and it was fine. So that was the nice part.
Yeah. I was fortunate that I was on the hockey team, so I could leave my stuff at the rink, throughout the whole school year.
Sure. Exactly.
It helped that I had a key to the rink because I was also a Zamboni driver. But I look at some of my classmates who weren't on the team and still had their equipment, at school, and I'm like, I would not want that in my dorm room.
That's a tough life. That's a tough life.
It is. Well, and, our dorm rooms weren't palatious by any means, and you throw a goalie bag in there, and it just takes up even more room. So you're playing, what winds up being adult house league. We like to call it the beer leagues here in Minnesota. But how did you wind up with the Anaheim Ducks?
So I'll give you a kind of a very brief career anthology of mine. So after I graduate from Tulsa, I go work for the Detroit Lions for a season as an intern. Then after that, I work for the San Diego Chargers in digital media as an intern. From there, I go work for NFL Network like on a contract basis. Still working in digital on the mobile app side of things, on the content creation for the mobile app side. From there, I go work for a race car track in Northern California called Sonoma Raceway, where we have a NASCAR, NHRA, IndyCar. So anything on wheels will race. It's a road course. So I was there for 5 years, where I was kind of the do-all, end-all, be-all for digital. So that's social, mobile, website, email marketing, all that for the track went through me. And then from there, with that experience on the social side of 5 years working with a brand and doing things in sports on that in the social world, I became a good candidate and a good fit to make the jump to the NHL with the Ducks. So I was really, really happy that I was able to make that happen, because it was a perfect fit for me. And we were at the time, my wife and I we've got no kids. My wife can work remote. So it's one of those things where my wife can just go to her office and say, "Hey, we're moving to Southern California.
Yeah.
I'd like to stay with the company and work remote. If that we can make that happen. If not, then I'm putting in my 2 months notice or 1 month notice." And her job was like, "Okay, yep, you can work remote 100% from home." So she was like, "Great." So we just moved. Basically, her office is now our living room down here, and she works from here. And it's a good setup, and we're really, really happy that it's worked out for our family down here.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about working remote. Pre-pandemic, both my wife and I were working remotely. Both of us. And very nice during the pandemic because we're taken care of, but it was interesting back then, as we were able to modify our home to have 2 home offices, but because we're remote, we're looking to move out of Minnesota and move south of the Mason-Dixon line, because we're too old for winter, we said. We've lived through it enough. There's no need for us to put up with 30 below zero weather in December anymore. But one of the things we have to look for is a home that either has 2 home offices, which is very difficult to find, or the ability to make 2 home offices.
Sure.
And
Sure.
it's interesting on what's out there that fits that bill, and how you have to get creative at times, because we're like, no, we need a teenager. So it's not like we can just have like this little area off to the side of a bonus room or something. It's like we need to be able to shut a door and escape those kids, especially my son, who's 14. So he smells, and I don't know what it is about 14-year-old boys, but they just smell. It's like, and they're stupid. Like the kid gets straight A's, but he's still stupid.
He's
I'll
book
look
smart,
at
but
him
not necessarily
sometimes.
street smart. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like he wants to go to Georgia Tech for aerospace engineering, and he's going to be starting flight school this spring to become a pilot. I look at him and his friends sometimes, and I'll go, "You are the 2 smartest dumb people I know," and they're just
That's
like,
phenomenal.
"Gee, thanks." But and I can say it to his friend, because me and his dad, we took the boys up to Duluth, Minnesota, which is about 2 hours from us, to go to an air show and see the Thunderbirds this summer.
The Air Force. I know Thunderbirds.
And we hadn't really, in the 9 years we've lived right around the corner from, like, there are kids at our house so often, I saw him claiming them on taxes this year, but really had never interacted with his dad because he's a cop and he primarily works nights, so he's usually sleeping during the day. But so this is the first time we really got to interact, and we're driving, and he looks at me, he goes, "Do you pick on your kids?" I go, "All the time." He goes, "Thank God." He goes, "Because I pick on mine too, and some of their friends that come over, they can't handle it." I said, "Oh, don't worry." And I look back at his son, and I go, "Hey, Oliver, what do I normally call you when you're at our house?" And he goes, "Moron." I go, yeah, but not that. And he goes, "Oh, Olivia." And I go, "Yeah." And his dad starts laughing. He goes, "Those are the 2 names I call him at home too. So it's all good."
Oh my goodness, that's funny.
Yeah, and Oliver's a hockey player, and he'll come over, and I'll ask him, "How was the game?" "Oh, we lost 4-2. I go, "You embarrass the community again." So I'm always,
no pressure. No
pressure. He went to a tournament a while back, and they came in second place. I was like, "Second place? That's first place loser, Oliver." No love in our house for the kids. That's for sure. We got to keep them grounded.
Absolutely.
So you get this opportunity with the Ducks, and you're a football guy. I mean, that's the sport that got you to college and everything else. And you had those opportunities in the NFL, but it kind of sounds like something was still pulling you to hockey. Is it one of those classic stories where hockey was your love, but football was your talent?
Sure. Yeah, you could certainly say that. I actually had this conversation with my dad maybe about a week ago before Christmas. Is like, what if? Because I went to a ice hockey camp in Minnesota called the Heartland Hockey Camp when I was 11 years old, and it was like a full week camp in the woods, and I was a goalie with some really suspect pads, and so that's where I learned, like, actually had coaching for that for a whole week.
Yeah.
And that's basically been my coaching foundation of, like, okay, this is how you play the position, and this is where angles and strategy and that kind of thing. And then everything else from there has been kind of just self-taught. But that was kind of the first foray into, what if I went the other route instead of saying, oh, okay, I'm great at soccer and football when I'm 13, 14 years old. But what if I just full commit to ice hockey goalie at like 12 instead, and I go down that path? Now, this being, call it what, 2001, 2002, were the opportunities there for a kid from Long Beach to have a shot at travel hockey and that kind of thing. Lakewood Ice was around, but Anaheim Ice was around. But there was certainly no high school hockey leagues. I would have had to have taken kind of a leap of faith and go into the travel hockey world.
Yeah.
Not knowing anything, not having much coaching at all, and just kind of trying to get in that way. So it would have been a definite leap, but it would have been interesting to see how much my life would have changed if I had just been like, all right, you know what, I'm just going to commit to this
Yeah.
going forward. But in essence, yeah, I've always loved hockey, and it's always been my favorite sport. Um, so now that I'm working in it, it's quite nice, and I'm really happy what I do for a living. I know some people can't say that in their career or their
Mm-hmm.
job, so it is nice to be around the team aspect and to be around a group of an organization, a group, a team that what the end goal is. Like the goal is to win the Stanley Cup, and my role is to add value to this organization through social media in that world and in that industry.
Right.
So
Yeah, and enhance the fan experience.
correct.
Yeah.
Every experience. Yeah, there's social touches every single department in our company and in our organization. So um, that is something that you learn with time of like, okay, all right, making sure everything's legal, making sure if we don't have if there's music, you can't use the music, can't use certain clips, can't use certain things, make sure the logos, making sure that partnerships are good with things, making sure we're tagging the right brands, making sure we're working with other outside companies, and then also making sure that we're delivering kind of a fun product for our fans, because at the end of the day, social media should be fun. It should be a fun thing that you're enjoying. It shouldn't be negative. Now, however, when you lose games, it's not fun for anyone, of course. So it's hard to always be fun when the team is not performing. But that's part of the job. Is it's easy when the team is like when you're winning. Like if you're the New England Patriots from a decade ago, and you're winning 7 Super Bowls, like social media is easy. Everyone's happy. Everyone will do everything. Like it just kind of comes naturally. Winning in itself generates engagements. Winning adds value. It's when you're losing that, okay, now you've got to come up with creative ideas and things that our fan base and the wider fan base, it could be hockey world, could not be hockey world, it could be something totally outside of hockey, that will engage with and add value to your team through its social media channels. So that's the tough part sometimes.
Yeah. Well, real quick, you mentioned Heartland Hockey. Very familiar with it. One, because of USA Hockey Magazine. Every young hockey player saw those pictures and they're like, I want to go to camp. But I worked the St. Mary's hockey camps in southeastern Minnesota, and they were one of our rivals. So we were like, yeah, I know about them. But that camp is not far from my in-laws. So I'm very familiar with that one. But you talk social media in hockey, and I don't know what it is about the NHL, but they just have a better presence. And I think it's because they don't take themselves too seriously. And the back and forth with other teams of picking on each other is unrivaled by any other league. And I think hockey does it so good that it's funny without crossing a line.
Sure. And really the social direction, I guess, if you want to call it. Each team is going to have a different tone. Each team is going to have a different priority or level on social, or depends on who's behind the account. Some teams just have one person. Some teams have 6 or 7. So it's just simply on a team by team basis. And the NHL's prerogative is to increase, the league's kind of, I guess, presence, but also to, I guess I'll say, accentuate or to amplify the team's presences. So if you've got something great, like they are more than happy to retweet, to share, to highlight a team piece of content on their own channels, to try and push that as much as possible, because some teams are more regional, some teams have a little bit more of a national reach. Some teams have a natural larger fan base than some other teams. So they try and do their best to, if it's a good piece of content, they'll share it and they'll put it out to people on a much broader scale, just to kind of get more eyeballs on said item. Yeah.
I was just thinking back a couple years ago. I grew up in Chicago, so I'm a Blackhawks fan. And I have a cousin who grew up in Anaheim, so he's a Ducks fan. So when the Hawks and Ducks were going up against each other in the playoffs for a couple years in a row there, we were going at it on social, and I opted to follow the lines of the Mighty Ducks movies. and pull out quotes from that movie throughout. Coach Riley's "It's not worth winning if you can't win big" was a big one. I kept throwing back at my cousin. And then when the Hawks did beat the Ducks, I just pulled together a quick graphic. I took, I think it was Getzlaff and somebody else I threw onto it. I had those two, and then I threw on Goose from Top Gun.
Yeah,
and it took my cousin a second. He goes, "Duck, duck, goose." I get it now, but he was just like, "Oh Lord!" But it like that's the fun you can have on social, And I like I said in hockey, I think hockey fans are here for the fun of it, unlike some of the other sports.
In our fan base, in our segments, you certainly have small little communities that have kind of sprouted up on their own in the social space. Whether it be, I primarily see it on the Twitter side of things, where you can be more reply. It's just it probably works most effectively on Twitter.
Yep.
But you have certain fan subgroups and fan communities that sprout up inside of the general team ethos, if you want to, if I can use kind of an obscure big word for a second.
We're goalies. We might have to spell that one
out. But no, it's fun to see that. Granted, different fan groups will react differently to different news, and some are like making fun of something, some are just being super critical, and some are being like, "Oh, it's fine." And so it's fun, and as a social manager, you see that at least whenever they tag the account or use #FlyTogether. So you see a lot. You see a lot in my position. It's just whether or not you choose to respond from the team account or not.
Yeah.
And that takes time to learn to have discretion. Yeah.
Well, on that social listening, that's something you and I could probably talk a bunch on, because my day job is actually digital marketing analyst, and that includes social listening. So, we use Sprinkler, and and I try explaining it to people, and they're like, "Wait a minute, you can see what I'm saying, and you don't have to follow me." It's like, yep, I can set things up beautifully, and that's kind of fun to do.
Social media and the internet is written in ink, ladies and gentlemen. It is not written in pencil. Just because you deleted something does not necessarily mean it is not around somewhere. So don't worry.
Right.
So just always remember that before you hit send.
Yeah, well, I just saw it again today. The Barstool Chicago team. It seems like once a month that they retweet the Mitchell Trubisky tweet from when he was in high school, where he tweeted out, probably as a 16-year-old, "I love boobies."
Oh boy!
and when he was drafted by the Bears, that one was played up a lot. Yeah. So even though he's not with the Bears anymore, it's like once a month they just break it up. It's like, yep, this is why we loved this guy, because
it's a classic.
At 16 years old, he was like, "Yep, this is who I am," and he didn't come out and apologize for it. He's like, "No, I'm not going to lie. I was speaking my mind. I was speaking my truth at that point."
That's great.
It was that classic example of, it's the internet is permanent. Even though you might take something down, it's still there. It's a conversation I've had with my nieces and nephews an awful lot. Is they're now, moving into college and stuff. It's like, you got to think about this stuff now, because you're going to go apply for a job, and you better bet the first thing an employer's going to do, a hiring manager is going to do, is they're going to go to Google, put your name in, and see what pops up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, you're working for the Ducks. You're a goalie. The thoughts got to cross your mind every now and then, like, hey, do you guys need a goalie for morning skate? Well, not even the e-bug, but for the morning skate. Have you had those opportunities to, throw the pads on with the team?
No, not yet. I actually told Coach Akins when literally my first week on the job, "Hey, if you guys ever need anyone, I'm available." And he's like, I got you, buddy. Even though we have an e-bug, so if we ever do need a goalie for the morning skate, we will call on our e-bug. His name's John. He's a lawyer from Irvine.
Mm-hmm.
And actually there we have a piece of content that we're hoping to film either probably next week or 2 weeks from now, where I will put on the pads and I'm going to face one of our players and just get shredded for content. So that'll be fun. I hope we can make that happen.
You
But
say that now.
That's one of the ideas. Yeah.
That's
one of the ideas. Yeah. So that's one of the ideas floating around, is because I'm really there's 2 goalies in our entire company on the business side.
okay.
One of our assistant managers actually is a goalie. He will come out to because we have an employee staff skate each week that we do. There's on the business side, there's me and another guy in digital marketing who are goalies, but that guy normally can't make it. So we would just have to pull someone in from the outside the company to just be a goalie.
Yeah.
And sometimes it'll be our assistant equipment manager will step in, and he's got a really cool, badass Toy Story themed goalie mask that he had created. It's awesome. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. And then that's really it. Outside of that, it's just.
Well, I asked that because I know a lot. I've had quite a few of the e-bugs on the show. Bones from. Sorry about that. My mic went out for a second, but I've had Bones from Nashville on, Kyle from Tampa Bay on. Those 2 guys actually got to suit up for teams. Of course, not their home team. I've had Connor Beaupre from Minnesota here, and I know some e-bugs, they just show up for the games and are available, and others like Connor with Minnesota, they'll show up for morning skates if it's an optional skate and the goalie doesn't want to go. Therefore,
I at least
every now and then you get the chance to throw them on with fellas.
On our side of things, I've only ever this would be my 4th season with the team. I've only seen our e-bug at a morning skate once, and I've seen him at practice maybe 4 to 5 times in 4 years. Most of our goalies will be available, and we'll always have someone out there, or at least 1 or 2 guys out there, if not 1 at the bare minimum. For morning skates to be both. It just, that's the way kind of we operate. Actually, I think he was at one. I think maybe about a month ago, which was good to see. But that's kind of I don't see him very often at practices or at morning skates, but he certainly is available because I see his gear down by the locker room for if we have like player availability for like media at 10 a.m. Like I see his gear down there, so it's already down there. I don't know if he's actually there or if it's just been communicated to him like, hey, we don't need you this morning. You're good. And just come to show up at night. And actually, that's one of my. I'm planning a new content piece specifically for TikTok, for our Ducks TikTok. By the way, if you're not following Ducks TikTok, please do. We're a lot of fun, or at least we try to be. I want to show fans what a day in the life of an e-bug is like. So in this situation, it'd be John. He's a lawyer, so you wake up, he goes into his law office, he takes some videos at his law office, and then he leaves at, call it 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock for a 7 o'clock game. He probably leaves at 5, gets to the arena, is ready, goes up to the press box, gets his spot, and then just does his work or does that. And then if he's called upon, then someone from hockey ops will take him down to the dressing room where he'll change. But I think that did happen maybe 2 or 3 games ago, where he did have to go down and get changed. I think Gibby got banged up, and then Stoley had like some sort of something in his, like some sort of lower body something or other, and he went down there when Gibby went down. And for a hot second, I was like, oh boy, here goes e-bug time. Tom Hodges we got Tom Hodges 2.0 because Tom Hodges was a road game in Dallas. So, and that was fun that we capitalized on that, and that his incredible story and what he went through with losing eyesight at 12 and still being the e-bug for the Stars and still practicing with them. And
I had him on the podcast, and I loved that. He calls his dad after the game. He's like, "Dad, did you see the game?" And his dad had, whatever reason, didn't get the games anymore on his cable provider. So he's like, "No, I missed it, but I saw they won." And he's like, "Isn't it great? This and that." And he's like, "Oh, You don't know, do you, Dad?
Dad, watch the DVR and just
Yeah.
call me. Just call me when you get to around like the second intermission. Just
Right.
give me the call. Yeah.
Yeah, but his dad talked about how they were able to score a couple and this and that. He's like, you don't know, do you, Dad?
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's wild. I can only imagine what that kid was going through, because that's an interesting situation to be thrown into. But I mean, you gotta be excited.
Yeah, it's a situation I think all beer league goalies dream about. That's for sure. And I shared with Tom, between my junior and senior year, I was skating at Johnny's Ice House in Chicago over summer break. It was a Billy Zito skate. He's now the Florida GM, and he was a player rep at the time. So he had a lot of the guys he represented or guys he knew that were in the area, and they needed a goalie. So they instead of go to rat hockey, it's like, absolutely. Well, my dad was working for Chicago Fire Department, the Office of Emergency Management at the time, and their offices are right across the street. So it was really cool that he could come over on his lunch hour and watch me skate with these NHL guys. And,
that's awesome.
I still remember Joe Corvo, he was playing for the Kings at the time, comes down on a breakaway, and I stop him, and he was trying on this one. He was trying to embarrass me, and it didn't work out well for him because he didn't know I could do the splits. So I make
Did he try to Lidstrom you? He tried to
he tried to, he tried to embarrass me, and I just make this save. I was pretty excited, but then I looked up and saw my dad standing there, just a smile on his face. He's like, okay, doesn't matter what else I do in the game of hockey. That was cool.
That's awesome. Love to hear that. Actually, to answer your question, actually, going back a little bit, yes, I have taken shots from players. It was in a slightly different scenario than I think the one that you're thinking of, in like a game scenario. Basically, we in off season of last year, we because we couldn't do our season ticket holder event during COVID restrictions.
Yeah.
Here, so at the end of the season, I think, or at near the end of the season last year, when we could have fans back in the building, they had a season ticket holder event where part of the day was watching our guys practice, and then B, kind of watch like a skills competition kind of thing, where they would do hardest shot, like accuracy passing, and then they closed with a breakaway challenge. Well, they weren't going to put Gibby and Stoli in net for a breakaway challenge, just to risk possibly someone getting injured or pull something. So, all right, social guy, get in there. So I go in there, and then I am now facing down Adam Henrique, Drysdale, Sam Steele, Trevor Zegras, and let's see, it was maybe Jonesy, maybe. Yeah. And so I stopped two of them, and when I say I stopped two of them, they missed the net. So I'll take it. Oh, it was Troy Terry. Oh yeah, Troy Terry deked me out of my pants. Yeah.
I would have fun with that because I'm still the old school goalie that likes to stack the pads and everything else, and players aren't anticipating that at that level.
That's great.
Yeah.
So that's been my only experience of seeing like the business end of a deke from Troy Terry or a shot from Rico, that kind of thing. Or so
I loved the All-Star game last year and how they brought in Maun Reum and Kurt Russell's kid.
Yeah. For
the breakaway part of it, because it's like, let's not break our NHL goalies. Let's bring in some names and let them play. I think next time around that they should bring in Dane Belfour because he's a character. Eddie's
put Panger, just Micah Panger, bring back Panger, and just put him in with his old gear.
Yeah,
give him a better chest protector.
That's something the NHL needs to bring back is the alumni game at the All-Star game, because
I remember when it was in LA, 2003 in LA, and the alumni game was awesome, absolutely spectacular. It was at the convention center, I want to say. Yeah.
In the 90s, they used to air it on TV, and Panger played in it, and they mic'd him up too, and so he's just being Darren Pang during the game, and he was Nick the goalie before Nick the goalie was even a thing. And it was like, oh my God, Panger's just funny as can be. And then you throw him into a game and it's just like, come on. How he was able to stop pucks while still listening to the guys in his ear and talking to them, I don't know.
I remember Van Beesbrook had the camera on the side of his helmet. Remember that one? Yeah.
Yeah, that was an all-star game. And then they did it with Hasek in a game too, because it was like on top of that Cooper of his. Now cameras are at a point that they could easily do that. Create a goalie mask where it's just kind of like right there in the forehead where you wouldn't even see it.
Yeah.
But bring back that alumni all-star game. I've said it I do like what the NHL has done of creating like the small 3-on-3 tournament format, but the skills competition is so good for hockey. I think they could just make that the all-star event and then have that alumni game afterwards, and fans would love it. But
that's where the NFL's going. The NFL has gone. The NFL is now 100%. It's not a tackle football game anymore. It's a skills competition, and I think is it flag football they're doing? It's like
I think so, and I love that.
I'm very curious to see how that performs. I think for social media, the skills competition is going to be awesome. I'm curious to see if the flag aspect will still generate the number of engagements, likes, retweets, whatever, and to see how that does with guys not in their pads, where they can run full speed, not be hindered by a helmet, by shoulder pads, by anything, and just see what like amazing athletes can do. So I'd be curious to see how that looks like and see if maybe the NHL might give something like that a shot for the future. I'd be curious to see how it does.
Well, it can't be worse than the engagement of the actual Pro Bowl.
The Pro Bowl
game.
Disaster. Oh, the Pro Bowl is a disaster. Yeah.
But I remember as kids, they would have the quarterback challenge during Pro Bowl week, and it was just so fascinating to watch. Dan Marino, Brett Favre, Steve Young throw these incredible passes, 60, 70 yards downfield, and throw it in a tire, with a small hole. It's like I would watch that all day. But I think the one thing any of these leagues could do is don't just have the skills competition, but bring in a beer leaguer to do it too, so that you can see
Pro versus
these
Joe.
guys.
Here's what Michael from IT at 50 years old can do with a football, and then here's Derek Carr.
Yeah.
Or here's Kirk Cousins. Here's kind of
because I'm not total garbage when I play, but you put me in the NHL skills competition against the All-Stars.
Oh boy,
it's going to be glaring the skills gap. I've seen it too, where people have said in the Olympics, track and field, we need to have an average person in every event so that we can see that person that's coming in last place by like 75 lengths, how good they still are. They might be slow on the Olympic stage, but they are still fast.
They are extremely incredible human beings still.
Yeah.
Because the average human being is running like a 15-second 100-meter.
But anyway, so we've been talking a while, and I want to be mindful of your time because
you're fine.
You put in long hours. I think that's something people don't understand. When you're working for a pro team in any league, the hours you have to put in during the season, it could be a 7 a.m. to midnight day, depending on what's going on.
For the draft, I can tell you from my experience and kind of my history, that situation would only occur for like the draft, like day one of the draft. Like also in Montreal, so I'm there in Montreal. We're there with some camera. We're there with some video guys. We're there with PR. And my job's to cover social. So I've got my camera, I've got my phone, I can mic guys up and that kind of thing. I've got content being delivered to me from what the NHL does, because the NHL hires. Are you aware of the LSC program?
I am not.
Joe?
No.
Okay, so what the NHL does to help all the teams around the league is at each arena for every game, they will hire a content creator, someone with a camera to take photos and or video of both the home team and the away team, because not every NHL team travels someone like a content creator to their away games. So you always have photos and video from the road being sent to you as well, and at home. So for us, sometimes we have two people at our games, which is amazing. But 90% of the time, 95% of the time, you have one person that is hired by the league, and they will they'll just basically ask you in the morning, hey, are there anything that you need or anything to highlight here? You tell them, okay, I'd like a photo of the outside of the arena, a photo of the inside of the arena. I want video. I want vertical video of our guys doing keepsies, upsies, or juggling the soccer ball during warmups, and I want photos from warmups, and I want maybe one vertical video from warmup as well. And then for in-game action, we prefer video, or in-game action, we prefer photo. And then that's basically how you do it. Or it's like, hey, we're honoring X guy tonight. Please be sure to get photos of him at center ice for the puck drop, outside of what our normal team photographer is doing. Like because we use Getty. So Getty is the official photography service. So all of our quote unquote professional photographers just upload their stuff to Getty on game nights. But we do have this extra person that is hired by the league to help us out to get fan content, like fans in the stands or mascot stuff in the stands, pregame or postgame, or hey, we need a photo of, Honda is sponsoring tonight's T-shirt giveaway. Please make sure to get a photo of a fan, holding up a Honda T-shirt or holding up the T-shirt that has the Honda logo visible, and so we can use that on social. So that's the kind of thing that they can help with, and it's amazing, and I love it. I'm very glad that the NHL does do that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Just to give you a little peek into what goes on in our world.
As my manager always says, to show you how the sausage is made.
Exactly. But to go back real quickly to your other question about like a day. So we've got to. So I'll tell you about tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow's a game day for us. We're playing Vegas. We'll probably have a morning skate at 10 a.m. If we do not have a morning skate, then we'll have media availability at 10. So basically, I will roll into the office tomorrow at around 9:30 in the morning, and then I will not leave until 10:30 at night on a game day, because you just stay the whole game. I will head over to the arena because our offices are technically across the parking lot from Honda Center. So I will walk over at, call it 3:30, 3:45. Our LSC will take photos of our guys arriving. I will then take those photos, edit them, and then push that out on social, because that's a sponsored piece as well. Open Door sponsors that element. So I will all it is basically adding the Open Door logo to the bottom corner, and then push that out. And then any other things that we have going on. I might have a social influencer coming for photos with Wild Wing at 5:30 at the ice level, which is a common thing I'll have influencers do, is to, hey, come down to the ice to take photos with Wild Wing, or we'll go on to the ice to take photos as well. That's a nice, pretty easy kind of turnkey piece for me to get some very unique and fun content for that influencer. And then, if they're going on the Zamboni, we'll get them on the Zamboni after warmups, and then they're off and running. So that's kind of, and then once warmups start, call it 6:30 for a 7 o'clock game, because most of our games are at 7 o'clock here. I'm at that point, I'm up in the press box the entire time, just having the photos come into me through a service called Greenfly that we use. That is how we share, or that is the photos from our LSC are shared with us. And that's how we distribute our photos and videos to our players for their own personal uses on their social platforms. So that's how they just basically get tagged, kind of a thing where it's like AI can recognize their face. It recognizes, that's John Klingberg. Boom! It puts that photo in his folder. He has the app on his phone. It'll give him a little alert like, hey, 8 new photos have been added of you from today. So then he goes in there and sees them, and if he wants to post them, he can, or he just downloads it, does whatever he wants with them.
That's awesome.
So that's how we distribute the social elements to our players as well. Once basically 6:30 rolls around, I'm up in the press box the whole time, on the laptop, live tweeting the game and posting goal videos or save videos to Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and then that's it. And then also adjusting the graphics on the fly, because the graphics are given to me by our graphics team, and that's like a template. So I will simply just adjust them on the fly, and then boom, post them out whenever we need to.
So that's a home game. Do you travel with the team, or are you basically set up at home and
I'm set up at home. Yeah, so I basically will just take over my wife's little office in our living room, and then I will work the game from the road. Probably about 2 hours before the game is when photos and content will start coming into me from our LSC on the road, and from then on out, it's just work the game from here. Watch the game on TV. Actually, we have a service that we use. The NHL provides us that we have the raw kind of in-house feed of like not the jumbotron, but like we have the raw feed of the game coming through this software program that I can clip video of in live time and post that to social within 30 seconds to a minute. So the delay, like, so if we're on Bally Sports SoCal, what's on TV is like 30 seconds behind for like what I'm seeing.
Right.
So I'll know if when we score on the laptop, so I can have that clip prepped, cut it, clipped, and then get that out as fast as I can. Normally takes about a minute or two for it to process. So the goal will happen on TV, and then within hopefully a 30 seconds to a minute, that goal clip is already out on our Twitter account.
Which works because then you're not spoiling it for anybody.
Correct.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, well, you talk about doing this stuff remote from home, and one of my favorite stories about Ronald Reagan was, he got his start in entertainment because he was broadcasting Chicago Cubs games on the radio via telegraph. He was just getting the Morse code coming in across the line, and he was reading it as if he was at the game.
Wow, I did not know that.
And then the 1 year he was able to convince his bosses that they should send him out to spring training, and that was back when the Cubs were doing spring training on Catalina Island. And one day it was raining, so he had a friend in the movie business that he went to visit on the studio just to visit him. And because it was raining, his friend said, "Well, we need an extra today. So do you want to be the extra?" He never made it out to Catalina Island for the rest of spring training because his movie career started that day.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I did not know that story at all. Wow.
But I digress. Well, we've been talking a while, and I want to be mindful of time because your days are long. I end every episode with a list of 10 questions. And what I like about these questions is they're the same questions I've asked every goalie. So over 100 goalies now, from Olaf Kolzig, last week to, a bantam goalie. They've all had the same questions. And the first one is, what's the craziest coaching moment from your playing days where a coach just lost it?
In hockey or in football? Because the football one's way better.
I would say whatever sport, because I just like hearing about crazy coaches.
Okay. This coach will remain nameless. He was a position coach of mine at Tulsa. And he had a very fun way of saying he's from. I believe he's from Louisiana or Arkansas, and he had a very fun way of telling someone that, I just complimented you, and now you let me down. And what he would do, but like that's what I'm translating it to. And what he would actually say is, "Oh, you like," he would say like, "God," he'd say, "God damn it, insert last name here." So in my case, my nickname in college was Pistol. He would simply say, "God damn it, Pistol, I patted you on your ass and you shit in my hand."
I like it.
That was one of my fun. That was that's the one that sticks out to me. Again, coaches would always, go ballistic and yell and get upset and everything. But that's like the funny one that I could think of. That's like, that's pretty dang clever. And that was that we loved hearing that one because we just laugh our butt off.
Yeah.
When we heard that in real time. Yeah.
Probably in one of those Cajun drawls too.
Exactly. Yeah. It was. Yeah, it was definitely a Southern accent.
I know you said he was a position coach. What position did you play in football?
I played wide receiver.
Okay. Very cool. The 1 year I played football in grade school, I had to be a defensive back because I could not catch the ball, but I could get in the way.
It's all right. That's all right.
Yeah. So what is your favorite all-time goalie mask?
One that jumps out to me first is Mike Richter's 1994 Statue of Liberty mask on the very, very top with the white mask with the Statue of Liberty on the crown of the head.
Yeah.
Guy Bear's kind of eggplant with the teal wings on the side.
Yeah.
Also stands out to me. Actually, I meant gold, but yeah, those are the two that stand out to me.
Yeah, I loved Bear's mask, and as I went on and played Division III college hockey, he was kind of the Division III hero because he played Division III hockey and then
In
went on to the
Hamilton, right?
NHL.
Hamilton?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then he went to St. Louis and then obviously to the Ducks. And so he's kind of that goalie that we all kind of looked up to in a way. Like, so you're telling me there's a chance?
Oh yeah, there is. Oh yeah, there is.
Yeah. So what is your favorite rink that you've played at?
That I've played at.
Yeah.
Well, Honda Center. Yeah, Honda Center.
Yeah. That's not a bad one from what I hear.
No, it's not.
Um,
However, I do. Well, not to get off topic here, Joe, real quick. I do play. Have you seen the TV show Shoresy?
yes.
Okay, so I play in the Western American version of that, of the No Show. I play in that.
Okay.
I have a senior A, senior A hockey. I play for a team called the Santa Rosa Growlers.
Okay.
They're in Northern California, but I will fly up there and play with them a couple times a year. Or if they're on the road, I can try and meet them someplace to play goalie for them. And there's a lot less fighting than what's in the show Shoresy than in real life, but there certainly are fights, and it's just a full contact version of gold level in-house hockey. It's awesome. I love it. But we do have fans, and we do have fans. We do have sponsors. So when we sell out our place, Snoopy's Home Ice, you could say would be another good one. Snoopy's Home Ice is in Santa Rosa, California. It is. It's owned by the Schultz family, the Snoopy. So it's the Schultz family actually owns the ice rink. So it's a very interesting place on the inside. It looks like a log cabin.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of it because Charles Schultz from St. Paul. In fact, there's a rink here named after him.
Oh, that's awesome.
He loved the game of hockey and he made sure they could play out there. And I've heard about that senior league, out west. It's basically semi-pro hockey, and I'm almost shocked that we don't have that here in the Midwest in Minnesota. I mean, we've got all kinds of crazy beer leagues, but we don't have anything like that.
Like an organized effort to create these teams. So we have there's a team in San Diego, there's a team in Vegas, there's a team also in Northern California called the Vacaville. They were the Ice Raiders. There's a team. There's two very good teams in Texas. One's in Fort Worth and one's in Dallas. There's a team in Vail, Colorado. There's a team in Idaho City, which is they're a wagon. I think they're the Idaho City Vandals or something like that. But that team's phenomenal. We kind of got boat raced by them. There's a team in Arizona that's fantastic as well. They're a really, really fast team. Arizona Ice Dog. I'm sorry, not the Arizona Desert Dogs is who they are. There's a number of these teams out there that at least on this side or at least west of Dallas that there is an organized effort to play. And I think actually on our schedule this year is the FDNY, the New York Fire Department has basically their semi-pro hockey team that I think they play. I know they play the police department every year, but this team travels. So this fire department squad travels, and I'm really interested to see what they play like and how they play. So that'll be fun.
One of my college teammates is actually on that team, number 21, Jimmy Becker. ESPN aired the 20-year anniversary game because of COVID, that game got moved to the fall instead of the spring when it's normally played. So it was like 2 or 3 weeks before the 20th anniversary, 9/11. And they played it at Madison Square Garden. And ESPN, they sent out, I think it was Kevin Weeks, Linda Cohn, and John Butchergross, just 3 hockey crazy people. Yep. And even better, 2 of them were goalies. Because most people don't realize that Linda Cohn is a goalie herself.
I didn't know that. I had no idea about that. I got to talk goaltending with her next time I see her.
I know. I keep kind of reaching out to her on social to try and get her on the podcast to talk goaltending, because she went to that Florida Panthers Open E-Bug tryout, and that's when a lot of people first found out about her being a goalie. But yeah, that game, you realize real quick that the FDNY NYPD game, it's more than
deal. That's a big deal.
There's a great documentary. It's on YouTube called Rivalry City, where they talk about it. And it was probably 8-9 years ago. They were playing at Nassau Coliseum, and there was a bench clearing brawl at the charity game. And it's funny because like since that brawl, and it went viral, but since that brawl, the game's now a sellout because it's like, are we going to have another one?
Sure.
But I was talking to my buddy Jimmy. He was the MVP of that particular game, and I was talking to him, and I said, "What the heck happened?" And he said that the one cop he had, the fireman said a few things to the cop, and the cop turns around and just takes a baseball swing at the fireman.
Uh-oh.
And so that started the brawl. But he said the best part was we're all tying up with these cops, and they're going, he deserves everything that's coming his way, but we got to make it look like we've got his back. So he said if you look real close, most people are just tied up, and if there are fists flying, like they're intentionally trying to get like shoulder pads, but make it look like they're backing up their buddy.
Like,
yeah, but I've actually talked to a couple of the goalies from that series. So the FDNY team, you had Kurt Flume, and NYPD was a fellow by the name of Mike Nano. They played in that game at MSG, and that was kind of their last game for both of them. Now you got two younger guys, and I had them on after the spring game last year, and Spittin' Chicklets has picked up on this. Like this is not beer league hockey. Like some of these guys have played in the NHL and minor leagues, and a lot of them played college hockey. It's a good team. So now Spittin' Chicklets has taken over the broadcasting of that yearly rivalry game. So it's going to be fun to see what they do to the game to present it and promote it. But yeah, that'll be a fun team, and be ready with that FDNY team because they're going to come at you. That's for sure.
I heard they hit. I heard they're just big hitters. They love to lay the body.
Yeah. That's from watching them play. That is them. But what's great is the team is funded by donations, and they raise money for the Widows Fund, and they do that with the NYPD team. All the money goes back to the Widows Funds. So it's a great cause, fantastic. Both of those teams.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So the next question is, what's your favorite goalie stick that you've used?
Ryan Miller.
Okay.
Although I'm a huge I am and was a huge Victor Fost fan. Mm-hmm. From his time in Anaheim, and even when he went away, I had a quasi. I mean, he knew I existed. He knew the other guy who was also the other guy from #Team Fost, which is our little hashtag we made up in like 2013 with a buddy of mine of like, we're just gonna be Victor Fost mega fans. So he knew we exist, and he had some fun, and he's met us twice. But I have his stick, but I don't use it. I use Ryan Miller's stick. It's a CCM Premier 2 from when he was playing here. I have two of them, and I really like that stick. I'm not a huge fan of. It's got the grippiness kind of on the shaft, and I like that extra grip there. Gibson's stick is more sleek. It doesn't have that grip at all. Like he can just slide his hand up the shaft really fast. It's like I don't know what you would call like a quick, not quick trigger, but like it just doesn't have that natural grip on the tack on the stick itself.
Yeah,
he just doesn't like it that way. But Miller's is that CCM Premier 2, which does. So I love that, and it's also a little shorter on the paddle. I think Miller's is like a 24.5 or a 25, and then Gibson's like a 26 or a 26.5. And I just don't. I like the shorter paddle for when I'm in the butterfly. So it's not, I'm not as big on my elbow being up in the air kind of thing.
For the longest time, I've used taller sticks, a 27-inch paddle. Which,
oh wow, okay.
Up until a couple of years ago, I learned how to use the Turco grip, and then I was getting better at playing the puck. But this year, I ordered a Colin Delia Pro Return Warrior with the trigger grip in there, and it was a shorter paddle.
Yep.
But I wanted to try the trigger grip, and I was like, it's a good price, so we'll go for it. I'm liking it. I still kind of prefer that taller paddle because I'm used to having that arm.
Because you're a stand-up goalie. Like you're standing up. It's not like you're in a super wide stance already, which is why a shorter paddle would work, right? And if you have it.
I'm more of the kind of that classic 90s, Cujo,
style. Yeah.
Classic meets Kolzig, where I'm down an awful lot, that's for sure. But I've always had that bigger paddle where I've gotten used to it. So now
Okay.
this year I've gotten it down, and I think I can say it hasn't resulted in more goals. But I'm like, okay. But the one thing I've noticed is with that shorter paddle is I can't do the turco grip because the paddle's too far down. So I've had to go back to the old school in the 90s. I'm like, all right, this is kind of fun. Back to my roots. Oh, are you still there, Tyler?
Oh, I'm still here. Yep, I'm still here.
Yeah, there you are. There you are. So yeah, I'm the jury's still out of whether or not I'm going to keep going with that shorter paddle, but I do like it better when I'm down. That's for sure. For the reasons you said, because used to be when I had that longer paddle, the blade is angled a little bit more, which I was okay because it deflects the puck up into my chest, but I've got a little more control down low, and I kind of like that.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. So, what is your favorite youth hockey memory?
Oh, youth hockey memory. I would say the Heartland camp in general, for like a week-long kind of fun adventure.
Yep.
Specifically, I think I was I was playing roller hockey, I want to say, and there was like a 20-round shootout, and I stopped every single one of them for 20 rounds, and we eventually won.
Oh, that's awesome.
At least from when I was, if we're talking younger than the age of 15 or 14, that was probably it. Yeah.
That's awesome. So the next one is always an interesting answer. What is the best chirp you've heard on the ice, off the ice, directed at you, not directed at you, from you?
No one chirps me much. I go 6'2", 235, so not a whole lot of people want to chirp me in net. I'm trying to think of something that maybe I heard on the ice. Gosh, I wish I had a better answer for this, but I'm kind of drawing a blank initially. Man. Yeah, sorry, I'm gonna be lame here. I honestly cannot think of, definitely nothing that was said to me. Maybe no, there's nothing. No, I can't even think of anything like the player said to someone else, like, "Oh, you're a pylon," but like that's like this is like super tame, right? Like there's nothing super witty or funny that I can think of that someone said to another player on the ice, and I can't, at least I can't remember it right now. My memory probably sucks. I apologize for not having a more funny answer.
That's all right. Don't apologize, because I'm kind of the same way where I'm not listening to that stuff when I'm on the ice, and usually the ones I've heard are in the locker room, but I've taken too many hockey pucks to the head. So what do I remember of what's been said? I like to say I've had 6 concussions, but I hold up 7 fingers to see how long that takes people.
Oh, but it probably crushes every time. That's a great one.
It's kind of funny on how some people don't recognize it, and then they're like, "You're holding up 7 fingers." Oh, am I?
I don't know what happened there.
Yeah. So what is the worst post-game beer?
Ooh, worst post-game beer. Well, I'm about to upset a lot of beer nuts. I'm gonna say an IPA. I hate IPAs. I can't do IPAs. I can't do it. I'm just not there. I don't know what it is.
You're not going to upset a lot of people, because if it's not warm beer, IPA is usually the answer. And I agree, because
it's too hoppy. It's too hoppy. It's too like
for right after a game.
Strong? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So here in Minnesota, we have Hockey Day Minnesota, and they have an outdoor high school game every year. Mm-hmm. And this year it's in White Bear Lake, which is the community I live in, and we have the White Bear Lake Hippodrome. It's 97 years old, cool little rink.
Wow.
The local brewery made a beer for the game and the Hippodrome, so it's the Hip Check IPA, and it's just got this awesome can.
That's cool.
Yeah, and so like I got it, but I'm like, I'm gonna have to drink this IPA now. Yeah. Where it's like, okay, but to go with it, I found myself, a good stout, and with the weather we've been having, it's called the Snow Emergency Stout, and it looks like the snow emergency signs we have posted around town, where if it's over 2 inches, you got to move your car, otherwise it's going to get towed. But I'm like, all right, the stout was Fantastic. The IPA, that's going to take me a little longer to get through that 4-pack. So when you tape your stick, do you go heel to toe or toe to heel?
Toe to heel.
Okay, so you're in the minority.
I know I'm in the minority.
I've had 2 different guests, in not knowing either one said people who go toe to heel are psychos. So I have to ask, why do you go toe to heel?
I don't know if there's an actual practical. I don't think there's a practical method to it. I think I just started going toe to heel because I thought it was easier to tape my stick that way. Mm-hmm. And then so when I do, I simply I rip it along the top seam of the curve so that you can't see it change. Like, it's not like I'm overlapping and you see a flap hanging down one side or the other, or halfway down one side. I rip it right along the edge so that it ends at the top of the edge right there on the, I guess, the top part of the U, whatever you want to call it. But I think I just did it because I thought it was easier to do it that way. I don't think there's a functional difference in terms of heel to toe or toe to heel. At least I don't think practically there is. If I'm wrong, or if there's any data out there to tell me, hey, I should be going heel to toe, then I'm all for it. But
Wild Debug counter broke prey. He likes to play the puck. He feels the puck comes off the blade better when he goes toe to heel. I'm hey, I'm not very good playing the puck, so I'm going to take your word for it. But my question then is, do you just do the blade or do you go up the heel too?
No, so I will do the blade. I know some of our the one goalie that I saw the first time do it, Freddie Anderson, when he was with the Ducks, been called 2014 when he was playing full time as a starter for us. He would do like a half blade. I'm like, that man's insane. And then I thought, oh, never mind. He's an NHL goalie and he gets like 30 sticks a game, so he's going to do that. For me, beer league guy, I need to protect my stick as much as possible. So I will do the full blade, but I will not go up the heel from there. I know some goalies still like doing that, but no, I just go the full blade, but I don't make that right hand turn up.
Yeah. See, I'm a product of the wood stick era. I'm still using foam cores. So when you grew up using a wood stick, you had to cover the blade to protect it. 100%. So for me, it's natural still to do it. I mean, Hasek, he would go halfway up the darn paddle. It's like, well, let's add another 3 pounds to our stick. It's already a Lincoln log to begin with in those days.
It worked out fine for him, I think.
Yeah, I think. Part of me thinks he may have been onto something. He kind of knew what he was doing in his own way. We just couldn't understand him because he was speaking a different language. Yep. So what is your favorite number to wear and why?
81. 81 was my high school football number. I like 81 a lot, probably from my football background. And I think as a goalie, it's pretty dang unique to see a goalie, especially wear a number in the 80s, because again, typically goalies wear numbers in the 30s.
Yep.
And I don't want to be like everyone else, so I like to be unique, different. So I rock the 81. 81.
I like it. So the last question: what advice do you have for young goalies?
Don't hyper specialize. I think playing more sports benefits you. I think playing baseball, playing soccer, playing water polo, whatever, when you're younger, right? Mm-hmm. When you don't have to make the full commitment to only go one sport over the other. I think you need to be more balanced in how you prepare and how your body prepares and reacts to different situations, even though, yes, being a goalie is very specialized. I would say don't hyper specialize when you're young until you know that you're making this giant commitment to the game and the sport. Don't get frustrated. Again, don't get frustrated by setbacks. Don't get frustrated because you are not a day one starter on the team that you just joined, where you think, oh, I'm great, and all of a sudden you get there and like, oh no, this kid's pretty dang good that I'm going up against. Yeah. And now I'm like, oh no, this team isn't. I want to quit this team. I want to go someplace else just because, well, this kid is right now as good as you, or
Mm-hmm.
you need to work harder to be better than your teammate or to be better than X person or X group of people to even make the team.
Yeah.
And then just don't let your don't get burned out. Again, that's hard to tell a young goalie, right? Like don't let angry parents, don't let unrealistic expectations burn you out from the sport you love, because every time I go to practice, or every time I come home from a game, hey, my parents are riding me. Hey, why'd you let this in? Why didn't you stop all 50 shots you saw? Why we lost by 1? I think you could have saved X number here, and all of a sudden now it's more of a negative mindset than a positive mindset. Whereas, hey, you stopped 40 shots instead of, hey, you didn't stop 1, right? And for a young player, I can see that being very frustrating very quickly.
Well, when
just don't
when I
want to play the
was
sport.
when I was coaching young kids, I would tell them, unless your dad is Mitch Corner, Francois Allaire, after a game, if they're telling you, that you should have done this or done that, just remember they're telling you that because they love you, not because they know what they're talking about. You just have to listen to them, and they're like,
sure.
Yep, that's pretty good. And I would tell the moms and dads that, and they're like, that's fair. It's like, but I know you're still going to talk to them after a game, so just know that they're not listening. And they're not listening because I told them not to.
I am directing them to not listen to you, just letting you know ahead of time.
Well, and what you said too about, when you make a new team, and if you're not the starter right away, don't be down on yourself, because you still made the team, and there are kids that didn't. And there's nothing more glaring to that than my freshman year of college. We had 26 goalies trying out for 6 positions, 3 varsity, 3 JV. I got the 6th spot, beating out a returning goalie. And I was number 6 on the depth chart, but you know what? I knew there were 20 other goalies sitting in their dorm rooms each night that wanted to be in my spot. And that helped those first few weeks, as I had to accept my role. And it was funny because early on in the podcast, I had my college goalie coach on, and I said, Donnie, what the heck were you guys thinking? And he goes, you were a locker room guy. He's like, your contribution was much more than just stopping pucks. It was the off the ice stuff, and everything else. And I said, yep. One of my buddies from high school that went to the same college as me, he always joked. He said, I had the fastest door in the Mayak. So it's like, it was those intangibles that I brought to the team. And sometimes if you're not that starter, you do play an important role, whether you realize it or not.
Gotcha. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You do.
Yeah. So the last question, sometimes an important one, where can folks find you and the Ducks on social media?
At Anaheim Ducks on every single platform. TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, same name across all of them. We love that. Myself at Tyler Pistoia on Twitter. I don't tweet very often because that's my full-time job, so I don't do a whole lot on my own personal channel.
Yep.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, it's like the race car drivers that don't like to drive the family. They're like,
exactly.
No, I do it for a living. I don't want to, throw the family in the caravan. And but I'll put links to all of those in the show notes. But Tyler, thank you. It has been fun chatting with you. If you make any of the trips to Minnesota, let me know. I'll buy you an IPA.
Appreciate that, Joe. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. I think what you're doing with this podcast and this platform that you're building is fantastic. I love to see this, and I I wish you much success. And hopefully, if you ever come out to Southern California, we'll get you to a Ducks game. All right?
Yeah, absolutely. I know we'll stay in touch, and maybe I can work with you to get some of those Duck goalies on the podcast. I know it's tough with their schedule, though.
Well, I'll see if Guy can stop on by.
I would love to get Guy on here and talk Division III hockey and those early days of the Ducks wearing the Wild Wing jersey. What did the players think of when they walked into the locker room that day?
I have no idea. That'd be a good question to ask him, though. I bet you that'd be a good question to ask him. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. Enjoy
Yep.
your evening. Hopefully it's a little warmer than it is here in Minnesota and pretty much anything east of the Rockies right now.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah. All right. Have a good one, Tyler.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye. It was so fun talking to Tyler and learning a little bit about the behind-the-scenes work that goes into an NHL game. I look forward to keeping in touch with Tyler, so be sure to follow him on Twitter at Tyler Pistoia, that's Pistoia, and follow the Ducks on all social platforms at Anaheim Ducks. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube simply by searching for Washed Up Goalie, and I'll pop up. Visit washedupgoalie.com for some great hockey-related content, my beer league hockey, video highlights, and of course all podcast episodes. If you want some Wash Up Goalie or Tendy Talk apparel, be sure to visit my Threadless shop by clicking the merchandise link on my website. If you like this podcast, go listen to the BLPA Big Show. It's the OG BLPA podcast show where a couple of beer league players talk beer league hockey, draft experience shenanigans, and exploits from around the game. Be sure to check out the full lineup of hockey-related podcasts on the Hockey Podcast Network as well. There are too many to list here, but shows like the weekly, nightly podcasts, the Caps Chirp podcast, and the Bob Matthews podcast can all be found. If you're looking for something good to read, get yourself a subscription to Vintage Tendy magazine. Published quarterly by episode 28 guest Brent Deneur, the magazine takes a deep dive into a goalie, usually from the 80s or 90s. In the first 6 issues, they've covered Potvin, Fuhr, Cheveldae, Thibault, Reggett, Van Beesbrook, even episode 20 guest mask painter Don Strauss. The latest issue zeroes in on Darren Pupa. I need to thank the band Zambonis for allowing me to use their music on my episodes. You can download their music on iTunes or listen wherever you stream music from. As always, I'm working on lining up other goalies to talk to. If you are a goalie or have connections to a goalie who I should talk to, shoot me an email at washupgoalie39@gmail.com or send me a DM on social media. Let's not forget, if you're a brand that wants to sponsor the show, be sure to reach out to me. Be happy to talk. And finally, if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment on the podcast platform you're listening on. It's a quick action on your part that helps others find Tendy Talk. So, until next time, keep your stick on the ice and your body square to the puck.
Checked out Ketchell's Pond. He calls up Tommy Taylor. Tom said the pond, it froze right over. So get the nets and lace your skates and get the hot chocolate for your mom today. Get home. Crack the dawn, I call my friend. Hey Tarkin,
Yeah, Dave.
hey, have you checked out the pond today?
It's funny you ask. I was just down there this morning.
Yeah, any good news?
Well, Dave, the pond